9 Ether is the mental power and chemical forces that grew the universes. 9 Ether is the combination of all existing gases and chemicals. 9 Ether is the original forces of order. In the form and formula of 9 Ether, our Ethiopian ancestors grew the universes and then personified themselves as African pygmies at the source of the Nile in equatorial Africa. 9 Ether began as a spontaneous fire and primeval chaos and grew bodies for itself called true stars or suns, one of which is the sun of our solar system. Ethiopians are personifications of the suns, because our energies grew the suns. 9 Ether produced the bodies of the suns, and in turn the suns produced 9 Ether. The suns are self-created, meaning, self-grown, and are also self-existent. 9 Ether is black, therefore, the bodies of the suns are black, jet black. 9 Ether is the power of 9 reason, which produces the power of 9 knowledge. There is no other power or force strong enough or wise enough to mentally and physically liberate the Ethiopian from his and her grave of ignorance and prison of serfdom but 9 Ether, the Ethiopian forces in nature. 9 Ether is our powers in nature and by nature. When we Ethiopian lost our power to reason soundly, 9 Ether is what we lost. When we Ethiopian lost our spirit power, 9 Ether is what we lost. 9 Ether is the scientific and spirit power of Ethiopians by nature, meaning, 9 Ether is our true nature. The power 9 Ether helps us make Ethiopian history and restores Ethiopian culture, and this means mental liberation, and mental liberation in turn beget physical liberation. The solution to our problems must be one which will work for us worldwide because our racial problems are worldwide. The reasonable and practical worldwide solution is mental liberation, which produces Ethiopian creativeness, the ability to create everything we need, and Ethiopian independence, the ability to think independently and act independently of other races. All power begins in the mind, be it political, economic, military or scientific, because the body is just a framework and tool for the mind. Therefore, the prime power is mind power, from which all other powers develop and mature, including the power of liberation. 9 Ether develops 9 reason develops 9 knowledge, and 9 knowledge develops 9 mind power, which is prerequisite to Ethiopian mental and physical liberation. Have true care, divinely love, for the Father Son of nature as you would love your physical, loving parents, and it will love you back, but you have to be careful to not view this in a pantheistic or spooky/religious way like the Phoenician Egyptians or Greek Jew Egyptians did. Some would call this blasphemy, heathenish, paganistic, etc. None of those apply to a nature knowledge-wise person who is a 9 news bringer. If your mentality is low, then your perception will make you see this in an adverse way. The 9 Ether Sun empowers the top half of the circle of existence, and the 6 Ether Sun empowers the lower half. The sacred master once explained the Most High is a being that was so powerful that he put himself inside of everything on this side of hydrogen, or in the elemental manifestation called physical matter. This also defines the cosmic reason of the Son of nature in absolute nature. Scientifically, atomic fusion is a known scientific process of growing, creating, elements, starting with hydrogen, yet mundane scientists never provide the cosmic reason for the process, without mentioning some magic, spooky, words spoken by some spook force called God or outdated scientific theory that is later proven false. The creator God Ptah Nun is said to have dreamt of the creation, through visualization, of a world in his heart, intentions, sound right reasoning. Then by using his tongue to speak the thought, contracts through realization, prominence, speaking with tongues of fire, all things were made real, actualized or factualized. Now look at the tongues of ether fire spewing forth from the Father God Son of nature. Today it is the manifestation and personification of Ptah Nun, with 999 mentality overstanding, not Ra the one who sees all or Anu the heavenly one as mankind perceives them, because these names only point Ethiopians in the correct direction of his true attributes in 9 dimensions. Mankind cannot explain these things for you. For example, in ancient Sumeria, Ethiopians by race, or Nu, in Akkadian, Assyrians, or Phoenician Mesopotamians was the pantheistic understanding of the sun god, chief invisible spirit god, to the black Phoenician mankind race, who later became the Phoenician Egyptians of Egypt, who referred to him as Ptah, Anu, An, and Ra, Re. The Ethiopian Tarites who migrated to that area of Asia and many other locations of the planet since time immemorial, taught the Phoenicians their culture, laws, sciences, etc., but because their brain capacity or mentality was limited to 6 in space, 6 in matter, and 6 in time, it led to the philosophy science called pantheism, a tainted form of what the Ethiopians taught them, because the negative forces of nature deemed time for this occurrence to exist in the winter season of almighty nature. For example, theirs laws and codes were originated from Tarites from Africa. but they still in time and mind turned these common laws that aligned with almighty nature, cosmic or universal law, into draconian laws. 6 Ether Ushumgal law. The lawgiver was Hammurabi, king of Babylonia, who conquered all of Western Asia around 2100, 2100 BC and even went to Europe on his strength and influence. Hammurabi is called Melchizedek in the Bible, Genesis 14 chapter 18 and 19 verses, St. John 8 chapter 56 verse, Hebrews 6 chapter 20 verse, Hebrews 7th chapter. Abraham was Phoenician people and the Jews adopted the name. The laws of Hammurabi, sometimes called the Code of Hammurabi, were not originally his work, but he developed and established the laws and codes that were originally made by the original Sumerians of Mesopotamia and Babylonia and passed on the peoples of Euphrates and Tigris rivers. The original Sumerians who originally created the laws were African pygmies. Hammurabi was Bedouin, and the Bedouin were a branch of the Phoenician people. Hammurabi, Melchizedek, was an incarnation of the sun god Marduk, sometimes called Anu and Elyon. Hence, the laws of the Old Testament of the Bible came from the books of Hammurabi, and the story of the divine exodus of the Jews came from the conquering power of Thothmoses I. Hammurabi opened the way for more Caucasian immigration from Europe to Asia, and even set the stage that led to the Jews' invasion of Egypt. All of this means that the history of the Bible is mainly based on Egyptian and Babylonian histories, cultures, and mythologies. The books of the Old Testament of the Bible were compiled by the Greeks, and the books of the New Testament were compiled by the Romans. This was all some of the necessary features of evolution, the death cycle, specifically, the last 6,000-year moon, sin, cycle in the Virgo epoch, which is why the Phoenician Mesopotamians or Babylonians and the Phoenician Egyptians made idols of their gods in a static, non-moving way, just like the moon is a non-living, one-faced, dead celestial body in the sky. Remember, this includes Ptah and Ra of the Phoenician-Egyptian pantheon, not to be confused for the Ethiopian-Egyptian cosmology, who they limitedly represented bound up like a mummy, just like Ethiopians were mentally bound by religion. The 9 ether sun appointed by the one supreme being, absolute nature, is a new Ethiopian. The sun god Ra, same as Ptah, Jupiter, Uranus, and Zeus, is the 6 ether representation and manifestation of the one supreme being, absolute nature. Nature is royalty, negative at one time and positive at another time. Nature is reality, material and physical matter as well as matter in the forms of energies and activities, and all realities can be experienced by way of reason, reasonability, and rationale, except the primordial state or chaos of matter. To the Mesopotamian Phoenicians, Anu's sacred number was 60, which is limiting. If indeed 9 is the ruler of all digits, thus Anu, to them, is the 6 ether or 6-dimensional sun god who is a spirit ruler down through evolution that they came from or give allegiance to. Remember, the sun and all universe orbs emanate 6 ether on the entire bottom half of the circle of existence starting at point 6 west. Now, apply the same overstanding to the Phoenicians. 6 ether mankind, pantheists, gave their culture to the Caucasians. 3 ether mankind, religionists, worshippers of the spirit dead under Osiris. They did not have the mental capacity to fully understand what was being taught to them. Thus they understood, and many Ethiopians got spellbound by their misinterpretations called pantheism and its spawn, religion, spookism, unto mental death. It stands to 9 reason that the moon god Osiris, same as Sin, Nana, Swen, Zun, Siva, Tahuti, Hermes, Anubis, is the 3 ether representation and manifestation of the one supreme being, absolute nature and scientific death of deaths. Note, ghost forces, G-hosts, are plural in power and purpose, as all ruling, programming, and controlling spirit powers and forces. It is indeed Osiris who is the ghost god of the dead, Caucasians, who influenced the writing called the ghost spells, produced from the original of the 4, St. John, or all 4 from a 5th book, the Osiris Egyptian Book of the Dead, which the public has never seen. The Egyptian Book of the Pyramids, the Cemetery, and Book of the Dead, the Bible, were magnified by Tahuti, sometimes called Thoth or Hermes Trismegistus, the moon god, also known as Anubis. The Caucasian race is Dracula who lives by the scapegoat doctrine. The satanic scapegoat doctrine maintains that the ghost, the god and spirit of the Caucasian race, must survive by killing the living to obtain their blood, because ghost has no blood, life fluid, of its own, and it loves, most of all, the blood of the woolly-haired people, for theirs is the richest by nature of all blood on the planet. So the dead, the ghost of Dracula, the Caucasian race, creates conditions called captivity and slavery, so that it may have victims whom it can conveniently prey upon whenever it needs additional blood for life. The blood of the best-known victims of Dracula is sent to the high places in Caucasian religions, and that blood is offered up to 6 ether, Jesus, and the ghost, God, the spirits of the Osiris mummy, and the ghost subsists on the blood, then ghost gets thicker and stronger in the atmosphere around the earth, for it is multiplied from the blood of those victims offered up in rituals and those whose blood is spilled outright. As ghost gets thicker and stronger in the atmosphere, its posterity, the Caucasian race, gets stronger to perpetuate oppression and captivity and keep the captive prepared for future needs of the ghost and its posterity. The satanic scapegoat doctrine further maintains that the guilty must survive on the blood and suffering of the innocent and ignorant. So Dracula in person of the Caucasian race pounces on its prey in the darkness of the night, because then its victim is unaware of what is really happening. Dracula created that darkness, ignorance, in the minds of our forefathers and their children to use us as adjusting tools when something goes wrong in its oppressive system and to have us for exploitation. The darkness of the night for the oppressed peoples of the world is the ignorance of their minds. But Dracula cannot withstand the sun successfully in the light, right knowledge, thereof, because the sun destroys the darkness, ignorance, which Dracula must have to practice its evils of death upon its victim. So, as the sun rises, if Dracula refuses to go back to its crypt, it will be forced by nature to destroy itself by help of nature, for Dracula cannot survive the rays, universal knowledge, of the sun. The crypt of Dracula, the Caucasian race, is Europe. The Caucasian race is the visible and spiritual manifestation of the death forces, because, like symbolic Dracula, their creator and activator are the spirit, ghost, of the necropolis, cemetery. Remember? The slave captive is the subsistence and scapegoat for Dracula and the death forces which empower Dracula. In Genesis 22:13, it says, "And Abraham raised his eyes and saw, behold, a ram, afterwards, caught in the thicket by its horns. So Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as an offering instead of his son." Don't be the ram/scapegoat, Azazel, caught in the the thick and strong six ether and ghost forces in the atmosphere, called religion. Scapegoatism is a common reoccurring theme of all monotheistic religions. To Ethiopians today, the God-Son of nature is what you see it as, our visible physical creator whose number is 9, because all true stars, like our sun, are 9 by nature. Regardless of what you call the visible physical son of nature, it is the same. Thus Anu to all 999 mentality Nunibus is what you visibly and physically see, as the grower of physical elements, and what you don't see, but feel, the grower of ether forces, both residing in you ether utopian. We taught them in degrees, yet they could not grasp but so much. Call it spookism all you want, but it is real. Can you name a greater visible physical power than the physical visible son of nature? Surely it's neither mankind nor any pantheistic or religious name known to him or her, nor the underworld god called Ghost who represents the moon, Osiris, who reincarnates as Horus, to Greek Egyptians. This is stated with all due respect to these spirit powers. Ghost God is a 3-ether spirit force that can only exist outside of yourself because it is an alien here that fell from the heavens, i.e. various densities, galaxies, or universes. 9 ether spirit forces, however, are the true gods and goddesses of nature because they are in you, manifested as you, the Ethiopian tides, pronounced Ta'ites or Tarites, who are the new buns of antiquity, those who have genuinely woolly, kingly, hair and dominant sun heat genes, melanin, who are found in all of the boundless universes and various worlds. We were grown here, and on many worlds in many galaxies of many universes, by the sons of nature, appointed by absolute nature. The sun is the source of the Ethiopians' biology. The sun god Marduk, Murdoch, is one of many representations of the incarnate controlling spirit sun gods who represents the god sun Anu in the 6 ether monadlity overstanding. When it is stated in various degrees that the laws and commandments of the sun god were disobeyed in the Garden of Eden, Africa and Asia, it speaks of the bringer of the eternal laws of nature at that time, also called King Amenubi and Riharakshi, the original. His authority was usurped by the other jealous spirit gods, earth god Dagon, moon god Sin/Mercury, underworld god Pluto, and this is the cause of the so-called war between gods. Remember, Marduk is the Sumerian sun god/deity who has the Anu power and fought Anzu, eagle, literally king, ruler, or god of animal mankind/the beast man. Marduk was an Anu type, the Most High, sun god of the Sumerian pantheon, champion of the tablets of destiny, given power by the physical god sun also referred to as an or a.nu. Melchizedek, Hammurabi, was also called a high priest after the order of the Most High, Al-Alyun, Ali, the god sun, yet let it be known, and never forgotten that the one supreme being is absolute nature, which is all space, all matter, and all time, as one and inseparable. Remember, we are all one with absolute nature or all, yet we were created, born or grown. by our Father Son who was appointed to grow absolute nature into universe order in seasons and cycles. Absolute nature is not your mystery God or spook force, nor is the God-Son of nature the one supreme being, although it sits alone in its fatherly function in almighty nature, the all-in-all. Spook force worship is a feature of the ethereal philosophy science called religion of the last moon cycle of the Virgo epoch and evolution cycle. The title the Son of Righteousness, that is the one Sun God. He is the Sun God incarnate in the flesh of an Ethiopian, who is the beginning and the end, the 1 and the 9 or 0.1 to 9, 19, in this new sun cycle. He also bears the title the Judge among the Gods, not to be confused with Osiris of the moon cycle, or the Lord of Hosts to religionists, or the Archangel of the host of heaven, the top half of the Smat circle of order, to others, who happens to be a great one of the Anunnaki, Neter, as a revolutionary demigod, who comes to right and right the wrong and renew, reform us as he writes the right so we can revolve in this new sun cycle and Libra epoch which are indeed on the right side of the circle of existence. This is the key to the allegory that states that the righteous will sit on the right hand of the Father Son. The sun on the right is Autumn Re, 9 Ether birth, the sun on the left is Amun Re or Amun Ra and Osiris, 6 Ether, death, and ghost, death of deaths. When we say a divinely chosen 9 ethereal being incarnate in human flesh, as we all true 9 mind, 9 reason grown Ethiopian Tarites all are, so we mean one of us who is appointed of the Son of Nature, our God-Son, as a Sun God and who acknowledges absolute nature, the one supreme being, the chief Nunibu, Nunibu, Nun plus Nimbus, or King Demigod. He is who he is, yet he is known to many, and known by many names. He has no one name or appellation, for he is the undifferentiated, uncategorized, one indeed. He is who he is. Don't get stuck on names, he assumes the names of now. He is the manifestation of our collective wants and needs, our chief soul who can exist on any degree of the circle of space matter on time of 720 degrees by the appointment of absolute nature. Thus he represents the soul of Ethiopians, ether.beings, new.boss, as a whole he has the Anu power. He really has no name, yet has manifested in humanoid form for the benefit of all humans, yet in particular, the Ethiopian race, most of which were taught by Ghost God, the Moon God Sin, Leviathan, etc., to only judge things from their limited physical standpoint, or a monetary standpoint, or some other materialistic way and even religiously in a spooky sense called belief and blind faith. There is a shift in the forces of nature. The Ethiopian tide is destined to rise in the revolutionary cycle with the aid of powerful spirit beings, not spooks. They have already facilitated contact and made a contract, with the most intelligent among us, raising him as a demigod. These spirit beings, the agreeable or so-called positive or benevolent ones that ruled in the evolutionary cycle, have to aid and abet him and us as ones who hold them to spiritual contracts by the cycles of nature that we are in right now. They simply have to agree with the powers of this cycle change, NWPU, Nun power or 9 ether powers of sound right reasoning, and the true culture science no 1/9. All that is needed is for Ethiopians to contract with their chosen sovereign chief. Ethiopians by race and mind, our gods are not spook forces, they incarnate for us. God is only a lower ghost concept of divinity trapped in persons, places, and things and encased in tunnel vision, or limited mental perception without sound right reason, 999 mentality. God in the science no one means goes to, yet is used because we speak English. God is a fake concept, unreal and dead, which is why they say you can only meet God when you die. God must be dead for you to be able to see him only in death. How then can he truly have power over the living? Love for the living? Overstanding of the living? Compassion towards the living?